Greetings, ni hao, talofa lava, happy 2019 from David.
In grace, Happy New Year 2019.
Um, Last night we went to a local church service for New Year's. It was
Mm.
great because we got to reflect a bit, worship a bit, celebrate a bit as well. We probably left there about 1 o'clock in the morning and sort of led us to, we've been thinking about maybe doing video channel or YouTube channel, whatever they call it, and this is our first attempt at it.
Mm.
So yeah, I hope you enjoy our. What we're going to do now is just our own reflection on the past year now and aspirations for the future. So in regards to reflections, it's 2019, and the thing about the year 9, whether it's 69, 79, 89, etc. Um, the 9 year is not only reflecting on the year that's gone by, it's also a good time to reflect on the whole decade.
So, in terms of reflection, what, if I ask you, if you look at the past year, what you have um, learned and would help you to set your direction for 2019?
I think for me, it's for those who know in my journey in the past year, which has been one of, was supposed to be a sabbatical year, but ended up
Mm.
had some health issues. And so whilst I did manage to do some study this year, in the main part, I was trying to get over the health issues, which saw my weight go up and down, and a few uh, gastral issues and things like that. But in the midst of that, I was able to do some study. I was able to even go with my sister overseas to support her mission work there. Um, but some real lows as well. And I think for me, whilst the challenges you are going through, whatever they are, financial, physical, um, emotional, all these different type of challenges, uh, it's important to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Um, if you focus too much on the challenges, you don't figure a way through. Uh, when you go through a valley and all you see is a valley, it can stop you from going through. And one of the things about the the Christian life is um, not that when you come to God, you don't have issues and problems and your own, not only the attacks of the enemy, but your own weaknesses. And um, how do you get through it? And God doesn't say that these challenges will go away. All He promises is that I'll be with you. I
Mm.
never leave you or forsake you. I'll go, yea, though I go through the valley of the shadow of death or whatever,
Mm.
I will go with you. That's the promise of relationship with God.
Mm.
Um, and so we hold on to that.
Mm.
Uh, and how do we get through? I had a difficult year, but within that year, there was some light, there was some sunshine. And I would say if you're going through some challenge or some difficulty in your life, regardless of spiritual, emotional, physical, financial, or whatever, um, look at the light because it's easy to look at the storms. Just like when Jesus was walking on water, and Peter went to walk on water
Mm.
and was able to, but when he saw the wind and the waves, he started to sink. When we look at the challenges, you start to sink. And it's not that you deny that the challenges aren't real, but Christ is more real than the
Mm.
challenges that you
Mm.
face. And when you look at Christ, He's able to help you go through. And so I think that's my biggest lesson, not only for this past year, um, but this past decade. this past decade, I think, has been one of me going through. And again, I had to focus on God, what are you doing? What's your light to help me go through all the issues of life?
Mm.
I married my wife at the turn 2009, and now it's uh, 2019. So we've had a decade together of getting through.
Congratulations! We
Yeah,
survived 10 years.
yeah, and 10 years of getting through things.
Mm,
And if we only look at the challenges of marriage, you could think, oh, is marriage worth it? And I think people who have good marriages will tell you they have good marriages because they would say yes, not that they don't have good times or bad times, but you focus on the good times, and that helps you get through the challenges of life. And the more you go through with someone, um, the more bonded I believe you are. Not
mm,
that you don't have ongoing challenges, because you are who you are and they are who you are and they are, and you continuously come together, but you know, rubbing rough edges of each other. Um, but you've come through together, and I think that's the lesson of the past year. The lesson of the past decade is we've come through stuff together, and that's really important to me and meaningful to me, that I have a wife, a partner who is able to be with me through it all. But even greater than that, God has been with us through it all, and I think that's been the difference. Without God in our lives, I think, we're human, and may have broke apart without God. So
mm,
yeah, that's some of the reflection of the past year, the past decade of life, individually and corporately as a couple.
mm.
What do you say?
Well, my reflection is, yeah, last year was actually, I guess it's one of the challenges year in my life so far. I guess seeing David being sick is very challenging, and not knowing particular the reason why he got so sick, because the hospital didn't really give us any answer for that, but but I guess it's also a journey to you know, um, to actually help you or train you how to trust God. In the middle of the valley, when you feel that nothing you can really depends on, and God is the only one. How you could just trust in God, and I guess when you say the bad, ugly, and the good, for the last year, I guess all come, they actually all mix together. You see, as the Bible said that, the more, it says sins, but the more difficulty you have, actually, you see more grace of God, and I definitely see more grace from God last year, because to me, it is really, you know that God actually prepare everything before things happen. We have lots of friends from Canada, Hong Kong, um, overseas came to visit us um, before. I mean, scheduled to come to visit us before even things happen. But their visit, in fact, is like it's like angels coming to give us lots of encouragement and support. Um, the most difficult time we have, the most actually worst time for David in terms of health. In fact, we have six people in the house. It sounds like, how, I was talking to myself, how are you going to handle that? But that was actually the best time in the year that I have companies, um, we have support. My nephew was here. One of the best family that I have in Canada came to stay with us for almost 3 months. So this is actually unbelievable blessing and miracles to me. And I have to say that the good things out of the bad is um, how God has been training me how to see or how to seek token of grace in all the challenges and difficulties. and and he also showed me that when the Bible said that he walked through the valleys, the depth of the valley with us. In fact, he's saying that yes, we'll come across the depth of the valley, but we would not stay in the depth of the valley because he's walking through that with us. So I really think that's a blessing. And our situation is still challenging in terms of many things, but I feel really comfortable and I feel really peace in my heart that um, you know, God will not leave me alone and leave us alone. I have to say though, I realize how grumpy or how bad a person that I could be because I always thought that I'm quite gentle person, but when difficulties come, sometimes you just turn to a monster or turn to a person that you don't even like. But again, God revealed how He can change us as well. So that's what I said. Congratulations, we walked through, to our 10 years of marriage, and the reason why I kind of support David to do this video, maybe open a channel for on YouTube, because we feel that we have lots of learnings that we can actually share with lots of people and people we might not know. People might come across, similar difficulties and struggling. We really hope that our learning in life um, can, can be some wisdom or some insights to other people. They are in the same situation. So yes, and that's the reason why New Year in New Zealand, 2019. The 1st of January, we start this video. And we hope that we will have you supporting us or join this community in the future.
Yeah, so just a little self-reflection, but just encourage everyone. Um, it is the natural time of the year to do that, reflecting on the
Mm,
past year, um, reflecting on the past decade even, uh, and knowing that ahead lies not only the new year, but ahead lies the 2020s, another decade. What does that mean for us? Does that mean more going through something?
mm,
Or if we've gone through stuff, if we've gone through wildernesses and other challenges, is there a promised land? The promises of God, whether whatever they may be in relationships and economics and
mm,
yeah, whatever they may be, does that lie ahead? Um, is that going to help me reflecting on that? Going to help me with some future decisions because a lot of times making the right decisions is about knowing your personal priorities. Um, a right decision for me may not be a right decision for you. Um, the adjustment is your personal priorities. What are your priorities? And from a Christian perspective, that's your priorities match up with God's priorities, and often there's a wrestling with that. And if you've settled those values, those principles, those priorities, then the decisions you make in the next year and the next decade will take you to a certain
mm,
place. Maybe that place is known and planned for, but in any journey you take, those of us who, growing up, left home, jobs, countries, different things, um, there's always learning in the journey. So whilst you may have something in mind, oh, this is what I need, this is what I want, on the actual journey you adjust because there's discoveries and learning in that journey,
Mm.
and that influences again your priorities, and
Mm.
you may take a slightly different direction because you have more learning and more understanding. So you gain that a lot in a year, and you gain that a lot in a decade, and the 2020s, I really don't know what lies ahead, but I'm excited and hopeful that the 2020s will be better than the teens, and I look forward to that. And
Is it 2019 or 2020?
the
Mm.
nines
Yeah.
is the
Right.
end of a decade,
Yeah.
and when we got married, 2009, that was the end of that decade.
Mm.
We're into
The end of the decade.
the end of
Yeah.
the decade,
Mm.
and really, it's you're looking back at the decade that's gone, but
Mm.
the decade is ahead. And
Mm.
so the decisions you make during those transition times are like leaving school, leaving home, first job, first relationship, first marriage. Um, these are decision times to begin something, to finish something. And when something is ongoing and routine, then you just normally operate on automatic because you thought about a few things and this is what's important. But when you're going through transitions, it's important to pause and reflect and identify whether your priorities are right, and allow that to influence the decisions that are coming up in the transitions. What school you go to, where do you want to live, who do you want for a relationship, or if for whatever reasons, and overcome these things. Um, You know, I preached a bit on the transition of the disciples from the frightened disciples uh, when Jesus died, and then at his death and resurrection, Jesus came back to life and met with the disciples and restored them to the Great Commission of going out into the world. Um, we, if not for Jesus, we're human beings. We frail, and we fail God. 99.9% of the time. But that example of Jesus and disciples is 99, not even 99, 100% of the time, God does not fail us. He uh, reaches out to us in that place of transition. And as he said to Peter, feed my sheep 3 times. And he used and the words, if you love me. And I know those who know the Greek translations, Jesus always uses the word agape. If you love me, agape means unconditional love. And in the English translation, Peter says, "Of course I love you," 3 times. Uh, but the word he uses in the Greek is not agape. He used Philadelphia, which I think is the brotherly type of love. Um, he was honest in what he said, because to say you have agape love is to um, know that you would do this beyond any doubt. And yet these disciples had failed God, and they knew that they didn't have that kind of love because they had abandoned Christ at the cross. Um, so they couldn't use that word because they knew even if they said it, they knew it wasn't true, and Jesus knew it wasn't true because he had experienced their um, abandoning him. But he still, with God's agape love, came back and reconnected. Um, so that's what I hope for the new year
Mm.
is not that we're perfect, but what we've experienced about going through transition. You go through better if you know that God is with you, and you allow God to minister to you, to speak to you, and as individuals, couples, as communities, we encourage each other. Um, let's embrace the new year. Uh, let's see where the new year takes us. God's given us a great commission. Um, And if we think we can do it in our own strength, no way. But he gave us a commission that's beyond our own strength for that very reason, so that we don't rely on ourselves, but we rely on Christ, who we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So that's my biblical encouragement for the year. We'll try and make a few more videos and share a few words of wisdom, hopefully. But you have a great year. Embrace it. Embrace the coming year. Embrace the coming decade.
All right. Happy New Year.